Welcome to In the Zone. I am Craig Zimmerman, and this is edition number 55. So we are here with another local celebrity, we'll call her, Julie Alef. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
Now, Julie, you come to us via the library system, so we'll get into that a little bit, and some of your upbringing and where you come from, where you're going, and what you're doing. So explain to us and some of our viewers where you were born and raised.
I was born and raised in Algonac.
Okay.
And my dad had been a summer person in Algonac. His grandmother had a cottage there, and her father had built some cottages on Harson's Island. So
Okay.
we go back a long way, but not very long as full-time residents.
So where was the cottage? What street?
It's in an area called Pointe du Chêne.
Okay, yeah, I know very well.
Down on Helen. It was, she was a widow, and
Okay.
she built it from a Sears kit with her 4 girls and the help of her brothers who were builders across the river on Harson's Island, so they'd come over and help.
It's always a fascinating story growing up in an era when a lot of people came up to cottages. And, you know, obviously the area around us, whether it's Clay Township, China Township, St. Clair Township, they've all grown. But the actual cities themselves haven't grown tremendously because they were pretty well grown in the, say, 50s, 60s. But it's fascinating to see, like maybe where you grew up on Pointe du Chêne, you go back there, most of the houses are still there, or a couple might have been torn down and rebuilt into bigger houses or whatever, but it's still there. And you go back in time and you go, looks the same as when I was a kid.
Yeah,
in a lot of places.
That turn of the century vibe is still there.
Yeah. So did you spend a lot of time on Harson's Island as a child?
No, not really.
Okay.
We grew up on the point, and
Yep.
so, you know, barefoot all summer, jumping off of boathouses and boats and water skiing.
Now, were you able to take boat excursions as you like to, just across to the island and things as kids?
Yes.
Yeah. It was
Were we supposed to? Probably not, but.
Well, and it was a different world back then as far as, you know, you got up, you did things, you went out, and as long as you came back by lunch or dinner time, it was fine, right?
Right, and there were things you weren't supposed to do, but so you got yourself into trouble when you had to get yourself out of trouble, which
Right.
is a nice skill set to have.
One little tidbit that I always find interesting is you can remember this when I bring it up, is that when you're a kid and you see it happen the first time, your eyes get big. Like if you're on a beach down, say, by Seaway Island or Harson's Island, and a large freighter goes by, and what happens? The water goes out, then it comes back. And so when it goes out, you got 5 times the beach, but don't leave things on the beach, because when the water comes back, stuff might be in the water, right?
Make no assumptions.
Yeah, yeah. And so remember those days?
Yes,
Yeah.
and pay attention to which way the wind is blowing.
Yep.
That'll
Yep.
make a difference.
So what school did you go to?
I went all through Algonac until I was a sophomore,
Okay.
and then I left school and was an exchange student to Mexico. And then when I came back, my mom was moving to New Mexico. My dad had died. And so it was either stay in Algonac somewhere with somebody
Sure.
and finish my senior year, or go to a new school in New Mexico. But I'd been offered a position at Simon's Rock, which is an early college in Massachusetts, based on my PSATs. So
Okay.
always take your PSATs.
Okay. And so you finished there and then started college as well?
Well, Simon's Rock was a college,
Okay.
but it was designed, the basic premise was that students are intellectually ready to do more challenging work in their junior and senior year. And so that's what they based it on. So we jumped right into, you know, blue book tests and essay writing and paper writing and all of that. And it was
Okay.
pretty exciting.
And
Really,
how many years did you spend there?
2.
Okay.
I got my associates there, and then I went to New Mexico and got my bachelor's degree in economics and international trade from New Mexico State,
Okay.
because that was the days that maquiladoras were and Twin Plant were coming up, and since I spoke Spanish, it seemed like a good fit.
Okay, natural thing to do. Any siblings?
I have two brothers, both
Okay.
older. Andrew, who is also went all through Algonac until he went off to prep school. He got a scholarship to Williston in Massachusetts, and he studied architecture at Columbia, and he's retired now. And I have another brother, Wood, who works with wood.
Okay. Now, do either of the brothers show up in Algonac from time to time?
Wood still lives in Algonac,
Okay.
and actually he bought the cottage that my
Okay.
great-grandmother built and is redoing it, and it just glows like a gem.
Oh, that's cool. Keep it in the family.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you finished with college, and then what?
While I was in college, I worked for I guess you would call it, I was a computer operator at a laser test facility out in the middle of the desert, and we were doing testing
Okay.
of internationally, well, space-based lasers.
Okay.
And so I finished with them, and then I worked with them for a long time, and they transferred me to Albuquerque, and at which point I started doing kind of the financial end of government contracting with them. And then they transferred me again from Albuquerque to LA,
Okay.
and then kind of military contracting was falling apart in the late 80s, and so I started working for an international telecom called BDM, and they did international networks before the internet.
I was
So-
just going to say, so, yeah, that's way before the time when they became popular to the average American.
Right, the
Yeah.
internet was kind of a problem for them because they had to make that leap, but they were doing private ones, and so my job was to price the product for the end user.
That's fascinating stuff. I mean, it's easy to bring up an idea like that today and knowing what it is and what it does for people, but when in its infancy stages, it was sort of like making up a cake mix before you even knew what it was going to be.
Yes.
Interesting. So where did that lead you into being in the library sciences business?
Actually, I had a son in LA, and we moved back home because having grown up on Pointe du Chene, I couldn't imagine growing up in an apartment and learning how to ride a bike in a hallway.
Okay.
So we came back here so that he could have ducks and
Okay.
frogs and toads
In your backyard.
in the backyard and ride his bike and not be watched every minute, which seems to me like
Sure.
child hell to
Yep.
be observed at every moment. And that's one of the great things around here is that you can still be free range to a certain extent because
Okay. What year roughly did you move back to Algonac?
I moved back in '93.
Okay. Okay. So fast forward, 30 some odd years to today. Did you start back into the library's, sciences business right away?
No, I worked at Blue Water Plastics for
Okay.
a while, and so got to know a lot of people and did that for a while. And then I took some time off, and my son was getting older, and I said, well, this library stuff looks pretty fun. So I was at the library, and I said to somebody, how do you get a job here? And they said, well, there's an opening. So I applied, and I started at the Ira Library.
Okay. Okay.
It was a teeny weeny, beautiful little library. If you haven't been there, stop in. It's darling.
Now, is that near the Ira Township Hall?
Yes,
Okay.
it's just up
Yes.
the street
Okay.
from there.
Which is on Meldrum Road, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
at the corner of Meldrum and Shortcut.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people, you don't realize it till you think about it where these places are because they're off the beaten path sometimes, or you don't go that way. But I've always said, and I said to you before we turned the cameras on, that it's beyond me why people go buy books when you see the resources that a library has. So let's delve into that a little bit. Because as we talked about, if somebody says, hey, this business book, XYZ, you should read it, and you go to your local library and they don't have it, it doesn't end there. And I know because I've gotten books that way. So explain to our viewers what happens when said library doesn't have your book.
You are only at a branch that the St. Clair County Library system is a system. And so you have access to actually 10 different locations. And we have a truck that goes around every day and picks up and drops off. So you can have something the next day or in a couple days, depending on what time of day or whether it's a Friday that you ask for it. And it's amazingly efficient. The whole card catalog is available online. And when you're looking at that card catalog, you're looking at everything in the system. And you just ask for it. You don't have to worry about where it is, and we'll get it to you.
And I've had cases where the books that I'm looking for weren't in my library, but were in a library in Port Huron, or they were in Port Huron, but they were already checked out. So I sign up and say, well, let me know when they're back, and I get an email that says, your book's ready.
Absolutely, yep, you just pop in your local branch and pick it up. And in addition to that, we also have ebooks and e-audio that you can download immediately. Libby acts more like a regular library where we buy the book. We may have a copy or two. You may have to wait for it, but they let you know when it's your turn. And Hoopla is different. In addition to ebooks and e-audio, they also have music, movies, television, and even comic books.
It's fascinating stuff because I still say to this day, there's a lot of people out there that yes, they use a library when they're in school, but they don't think about going getting a book at the library, or darn it, that book's not there. Now, given the situation where the book's not in the Port Huron system, you can actually go to other systems as well, correct?
Yes, we are part of a Michigan-based system called MEL, which stands for Michigan Electronic Library. And we can borrow books for you from other places. And not only are they novels, obscure, etc., or we can also, if you're in college, part of that whole system are colleges. So you can borrow books from colleges and do research and maybe even not have to buy a college book.
And all of this under the umbrella of a library system is paid for by our taxes. So yes, you pay something in advance, if you will. And I look at that and say, then you might as well use it, right? So
we are ready and waiting for patrons to show up.
And there's almost no book that is not available, correct?
It is rare when we can't one way or another get something, because even beyond the Michigan system, we can go outside of the state. We then ask you to pay postage, but it's usually a book that you can't get otherwise. So.
I found it fascinating because I've had it several times where the book was not available and I'm not in a hurry. So, a week or two, wait, shows up, I'm good. So tell us what else is going on at the library.
Well, summer reading is about to start in the next couple of weeks, and so there are lots of prizes, lots of ways to win. It's not just for children, it's also for teens and adults. Last year we started a new thing with an app. So you can download the app to your phone either as an individual or as a family and keep track of your reading. And you can put in for prizes there. The smaller prizes we have to pick up at the branch, but the bigger prizes you put in, and at the end of if you win at the end, they'll ship it to your branch.
Okay. Now for our St. Clair people, I know where the library is, but tell us where the library is.
The best way to put it is we share a parking lot with the fire department. And the post office.
So technically you're driving down by the mall downtown and you pass the new theater, you go to the next block past the bank, gas station, make a right.
Yes.
If you're heading south.
Yes, if you're heading south, absolutely.
And from my memory, the street goes basically in a horseshoe around it. So you go to the right, and then you can come back the other way. So that's where St. Clair City Library is. Let's see, Moraine City is on Fairbanks. Algonac, is that the old Heminger Hardware?
It is very good. Oh, you know your stuff. Yes, that is the old Heminger Hardware.
Marysville, I think, there's in the old City Hall, right in that area.
They're between the Public Works building and the old City Hall. I'm not sure where the new City Hall is, but it's right along there across from the high school.
And of course, Port Huron is right downtown. That would not be on McMorran.
It is on McMorran.
Okay, it's on McMorran. Front's McMorran and goes to the back
Through.
street too. Okay. So I think and then Ira, we talked about being on the corner of Meldrum and
Shortcut.
Shortcut. What other ones are we missing?
There's Memphis,
Okay.
which is also a darling one. It has a beautiful garden. Yale is a very nice library. K-PAC is in a storefront
Okay.
in K-PAC that's been redone. And shortly before COVID, they expanded into the other side. And it's just beautiful. It has the wooden floors and
Sure.
it has a fireplace. And
Does it creak when you walk on them?
yes, it does.
Okay, yeah. So tell me, your position at the library is, are you the head librarian in St. Clair?
My title is branch lead.
Okay.
And so I'm the full-time person at the branch.
Okay. And how many people work there on a daily basis?
Five.
Generally? 5?
Yep,
Okay.
5.
Now that's more than I would have guessed, but that's 5 at any given time generally. And there's a lot of books coming and going.
Yes, and we aren't all there at the same time.
Okay.
And we're open Monday through Thursday from 9 in the morning till 8 at night. And a lot of people don't know that we're open late. Fridays we're there until 5, and Saturdays are 9 till 2.
Okay, good long hours. Let's talk a little bit about the ebooks, because that tends to be something that is newer to some people. I look at it at the devices we have now, whether it's an iPhone or a different one, and doesn't matter what age. I say, even if you've never done a podcast or an app for, say, a library, it's not very difficult. It's
No.
really easy.
If you can download an app,
Yeah.
you can do ebooks. The hardest part is like with any app where you register and you put all your information in and set it up.
Right.
But after that, it's easy.
Yeah, I've been on the St. Clair Library. It's on my phone. I need to use it more, so I'm glad you came in to talk to us about that. So, is there any way to know how many thousands of titles there are on ebooks? Or it's just so vast that it's hard to know?
It is vast, and it's changing. The way that Libby works, Libby's one of the apps, and its company is called Overdrive, but the app is called Libby. We purchase those ebooks and have them, and different publishers have different rules, so they
Okay.
come and go. And so those are the ones that if you see something, you might have to wait for it. Hoopla is an entirely different animal altogether, and it's the one that has movies and music and comic books, and that we pay per download.
Okay.
And so there's never any waiting, but it is so wildly popular that we blew past the budget.
Okay.
And so we had to governor it to a certain extent. So you can download eight items in a month
And that's on your app?
onto your device.
Okay,
You can
okay.
download it so you can walk with music, you can listen to a book offline. And so 8 books, that's more than enough. But
Sure.
if you're downloading music, 8 might not be all
Right.
that much or comic books for a month. So we're sorry.
Now, I'm assuming, I know that you're not supposed to assume things, so we'll talk about that, but with ebooks today, let's say a book comes out today, a new book comes out, whatever title it may be. Is it generally available as a regular book and an ebook at the same time?
Generally, yes.
So I would think this day and age they're doing that because it's a popular way.
Well, and yes, and they used to do it where it would come out as a book, and then a couple months later it would come out as large print, which was very frustrating
Right.
for people who read large print. So the publishers have bent to demand and pretty much do it all at one time. I mean, if it doesn't happen, there's probably like a technical issue.
So it's streamlined it to the point that if it's available one way, it's available the other.
Yes.
Okay. Which makes sense because I would think that you can see a lot of growth in that. Like you said, you already hit your number that you budgeted for as far as downloads. So let's talk about that then. You know, we talked earlier before the camera started about how technology is changing in all sorts of different lifestyle of things. I'm guessing that download issue now going forward, building budgets, because you always have to deal with a budget, that you're now looking at that and trying to target or pinpoint where you're going with downloads, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And COVID really accelerated that
Yeah.
too, that a lot of people went to ebooks and e-audio during COVID. And so the demand has just exploded. And also, I've found that I can consume more books by listening to them than I ever could by
Right.
reading, because you're doing something else. You're walking, you're painting,
Right.
you're cleaning the house. And
It seemed though like a number of years ago that this is just my assessment, that it seemed like maybe 10, 15 years ago you looked at it and thought, well, library's going to be antiquated and they're going to go by the wayside, and it didn't. It basically evolved.
Yes.
And got bigger in a sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, in many ways. And we may not see as many people,
Right.
but your library card renews every 3 years. And so we see people right before their card expires because it's like, I can't request a book. I can't
Right.
get that ebook. I've got to, it's like,
Right.
there you are.
There you are,
didn't
exactly.
move.
Yeah. But it's fascinating too, though, to see. I mean, I look back at the days in college when you went to the little card file. Okay, 412.6 AB, and then you went and you found the book. Whole different story nowadays, because it's all on computer.
Well, and people come in and they say they miss the card catalogs, and I get it. But when you're cross-referencing
Right.
something, it's a lot easier than going to
Oh.
a different drawer to just hit
Yeah.
hit the mouse.
Yeah, very fascinating stuff. So when did you decide to get into library?
I started at IRA in 1999,
Okay.
and I did teen programming there, and that was a lot of fun. The summer reading there, we gave extra points for reading banned books because so many banned books are classics.
Okay.
And so even parents who were appalled that we were offering double points for banned books, that when we showed them the list, they were like, oh, this is my favorite book. What are you talking
I
about?
didn't know that, right. Okay. Okay.
Yes, that it was actually a ploy to get them to read the classics.
Okay. Anything else on your list of things that you want to throw out there about the library?
Yes, summer reading is starts soon. You can download the app now. Give us a call. We'll give you the app. We have a regular cookbook club that meets, and they cook all kinds of stuff. Coming up in June, our summer drinks. July is all American, think barbecue. And August is fruits and vegetables. We have the Maryland's Wing Book Club, which meets the third Tuesday at noon at the Voyager, and it's a fantastic group of people. And they select their books the year in advance.
Oh, okay.
So you can bop in and bop out, and it's a big enough group that no one's going to be mad at you if you don't show up for one, or it's a book that doesn't appeal to you, or you're out of town.
Okay.
It's a great group, and you can have lunch with a nice group of ladies. We also have coming up this summer a STEM series, which is science-based, science, technology, engineering, and math.
I'm glad you got it. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's an interesting subject in and of itself when you look at that schools are promoting this nowadays too.
Yes,
Yeah.
and anybody who's interested in that, it's so great to just allow a kid to explore what they want to explore in the summer, because all that matters is that they're reading.
Right.
And to help keep that passion going is what we're all about for lifelong learning. We have we're going to be building a robot. We're going to have a drone that they're going to have to program. So also, there was much talk about the digital divide with people who did have computers and didn't have computers. But technology is advancing into other things, and so it's very important for the library to keep kids in that zone, because not everybody's parents can afford to buy them a drone that they can program.
Oh, right, right.
So we'll play with that.
Sure. And you'll be the pilot?
No, actually, one of our librarians has a bachelor's degree in physics from MIT.
Oh.
I know, I know. We are so tickled to have her.
Yeah.
Another one of our branch librarians is a classical bassoonist who played with the orchestras in Chicago. And we have another librarian who is an absolutely avid reader of science fiction. So anything you need to know about science fiction or fantasy, we're like,
That's your go-to
Kathy!
lady. Yeah, she's your go-to. Okay.
Yes.
Cool story. Okay. Well, thank you for coming by. I think we learned a little bit about not only you, but the library and the system that you're working amongst.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
If you or anybody you know knows anybody you'd like to have sit across from me here and put on a conversation, phone number's there, 586-707-5811. Appreciate you stopping by, and we'll move on to In the Zone number 56 next.